What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update. And as I alluded to in my vintage collection market update last week, it seems like prices are bouncing after quite a lull during the holiday season. Does it mean that people have more money to spend because they've paid off their bills from the holidays? Do they think that the economy in general is improving and that this year is going to be a good year in the economy, so people are a little bit more likely to spend their discretionary income on stupid plastic dolls? Your guess is as good as mine. As I've mentioned before, I am not the Nostradamus of action figures, okay? I am not the Diane Warwick from the telecommercials giving you your fortune. I have no idea what the market's going to do this year, but in this batch, there are a lot of really good big prices that I wanted to go through. So let's dig in. All right, the first one we've got a couple from Brian's Toys that were at auction. The first one is an AFA 75 Plus Red Snaggletooth. So clear blister, 75, 80, 85, where the sub scores, unpunched, beautiful card, no price sticker. And that one sold for $1,009 in an auction, 57 bids on that one. Now, that one seems about right, I guess. You know, it seems like in a higher grade, like an 80 or 80 plus, you're probably over $1,200. So this is appropriately discounted given it's a 75 plus. This one I'm a little confused by. I have no idea why this one went so much. This was an yellowed 80 41 back. This is the 41 back D Yoda. Now, I'm assuming it's because it's the brown snake. The brown snake's a little tougher to find on the Empire Strikes Back card, so that probably drove the price up. But it is yellowed, and, you know, to me, I'm a little shocked that it went as high as it did. But it sold for $12.25 on 26 bids. And again, I think it's because of the snake variation. That's the only thing I can think of. I would shudder to think what this one would be in a clear blister. You're probably talking easily over $1,500. And maybe that's the going rate. I don't know. I mean, even standard 32Bs, the debut card with the orange snake Yoda, that one in high grade, that one's hit as high as $1,600 that we've seen already graded. So, you know, your guess is as good as mine. But again, I'm assuming it's because of the brown snake. $12.25 again took that home. Here was a beauty. This one was a French Meccano card for Luke Bespin, Tenue Bespin, Luke. And this has got the Retour de Jedi des Étoiles, La Guerre des Étoiles. But it does have a tape on the blister, and I think that this is factory applied. You can see the yellowing on it. I think a lot of these French Meccano cards were kind of known to have kind of weak blisters, so they added for a lot of these tape on the blister, and you can see it on the bottom as well as the top. So there's a good picture of the bottom there, and then of course on the top I've seen a number of examples like that, so I'm assuming that's a factory applied example. It did have some creases. It sold in an auction for 1,519 euros. So that's 1,652 US dollars. It was very quickly relisted, or at least somebody that I know, a Patreon supporter, he said that he was bidding on it. He lost. He received a second offer chance, so I'm assuming whoever won this decided not to go through with it and pay for it. So I don't know if this was been relisted or not, but I do know that one of my Patreon supporters received a second chance offer on it. So, you know, that happens sometimes, is that people get really kind of excited about it and then they don't follow through. And correct me if I'm wrong, this one looks like the Spanish PBP variation of Luke. It's got the dark brown boots. I could be wrong on that, but that one does look like the Spanish PBP to me, chocolate boots. So, very nice looking example. And at least in this auction, it sold for over 1,600 US dollars. Next up, Tough Nut is back with a few Return of the Jedi card backs, both of them yellowed. This one was the B-Wing Pilot unpunched US card. That one sold for $195.50 in an auction. And then he also had Wicket. That one sold for $202.50. I think both of those prices are probably about right. You know, Wicket is, whether it's a yellow blister or clear blister, they seem to be pretty popular. And the Ewoks cartoon version of Wicket, we've talked about that one. Even loose, complete, ungraded can go for over $600, believe it or not. So there you go on two Return of the Jedi card backs. Another seller, Jada, had some auctions again. This one is a 77 back with the coin offer for Boba Fett. Kind of rough condition, probably about a 75. That one still sold in an auction for $1,875. So that's a little bit of a bounce, if you ask me. That one's kind of come off of the lows, and maybe it was because of the coin offer being on there. But we've documented a couple of 77 back Boba Fett mint on cards in about the same condition that have sold for $1,400 to $1,600. So that one went a little bit higher than expected at $1,875. Same seller also had this 77 back R5D4 yellowed blister. And, I've seen a number of these yellowed blister 77 backs for R5D4 sell in that $250 to $350 range. And this one sold for $440 in an auction. So that's a little bit more than I'm willing to spend. I'm really trying to find a Return of the Jedi clear blister R5D4, but good luck. They just never show up. And when they do, they're usually in buy it now situations and people don't mess around and buy it. That's been my experience with a couple that luckily my subscribers have sent to me over the last 6-9 months. Hey, here's one in case you're still looking. But every time it sells before, it's always at a price that I'm not willing to pay, like $600 or more, and it always does sell. So maybe I've got to adjust my price settings in terms of what I'm willing to pay for a clear blister Return of the Jedi R5D4. But that one was a yellowed blister, pretty decent condition. I mean, I still think it's probably about a 75 grade, at least for the card, because of some litho damage up here in the upper right-hand corner. A little bit of edge wear, so maybe a 75, 80, 85. Maybe it sneaks out an 80 grade. But anyway, 440 is more than I'm willing to spend on that one, but a very nice example overall. Same seller also had some Power of the Force cards, last 17. This is the Imperial Dignitary on a punched example. Again, probably about a 75, maybe a low 80 grade. That one sold for $310. Also had the EV99, and this one did have some creasing in the upper left-hand corner. So again, probably about a 75 grade for EV99. Blister was not too yellowed on that one, although it looked like it maybe has a ding or something going on there in the lower left-hand corner of the blister. That one sold for $485. Here was the Han Solo in Carbonite. Again, some card damage around the hang tab. Certainly not a perfect card. That still sold for $550 in an auction. So, Han Solo in Carbonite, whether it's on the Power of the Force card or the Palatoy Tri-Logo card, they are commanding big, big money. Just very, very expensive card back. Here is a Luke Skywalker in his Imperial Stormtrooper disguise. This was a very rough card back, probably at best like a 60. Would be my guess on that one. It had some edge wear as well as some heavy creasing at the top of the card. Still sold for $876. Now, I want to say that, there were some loose graded examples that sold, and some of them sold for way more even than what this mint on card sold for. So stay tuned for maybe later in the week or weekend when I put together a loose graded video, but several different examples for a loose graded Luke Stormtrooper sold, and the prices were pretty shocking. So anyway, that one mint on card did sell for $876 in an auction. He also did have the C-3PO droids. This one was a kind of a partially unpunched card back. This was the US card with a price sticker, some heavy damage at the top of the card there that you can see. So again, probably about a 75 would be my guess, and that still sold for $1,000. So I think all of these kind of support the argument that prices have definitely bounced off the lows. $1,000 for that one, and that was certainly not mint at all. And a big number there. This was the biggest shocker. I think I had this in a what to buy video a week or two ago, and this one had a cracked blister. This is the R2-D2 droids unpunched US card. It was graded AFA 85, but as you can see at the top of the blister there, it had a pretty big crack at the top of the blister. So it was already, when I showed it in my what to buy video, it was already at like $575, and I was like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm not paying that for a cracked blister, because God only knows if it makes it to you safely without that R2-D2 ejecting out of it like he's in the Dagobah swamps and getting ejected out of the mouth of that swamp creature. So, to me, it's really shocking that it sold for $1,275 on 52 bids. But, hopefully whoever bought it is able to get that in one piece. But I just would worry that in shipping that it would just kind of fall apart. But big price and way more than I expected on that one. Now we got to dig into Lee's toy review. He had some incredible items, as you saw in the thumbnail, and the prices were pretty shocking. I mean, way more than I was expecting. This was a 31 back offerless Walrus Man, unpunched, pretty nice looking card overall, just some light edge wear here and there. I think it had a little tiny crease or something somewhere, but no, I mean, I think this one would grade an 80. Clear blister, 31 back, Walrus Man, but 807 just seems like a really high number to me, just given that, it's ungraded. You're taking a little bit of a grading risk there. Let's call that a low 80 for the card. Blister and figure are probably 85. So this would probably score an 80 or an 80 plus would be my guess. But 807 is way more than I'd be willing to go, but big number there. Next up was a Stormtrooper, and this one was the 32 back offerless. It did have creases by the hang tab as well as to the left of the blister. It was a clear blister though. Big crease down here in the lower left-hand corner. So probably at best a $75. That one's still sold for $388. That one's probably the closest to market value in my opinion relative to some of these others. But you know, $388's not too bad on that one. Next up is the AT-AT Commander. Did have some creases by the hang tab. Probably a 75 plus or maybe a low 80. Clear blister though, which for some reason, the AT-AT Commander on this particular Cardback usually does turn yellow. I don't know why that is, but this one was nice and crystal clear. That one sold for $146.50. It's a pretty common Cardback, so that's probably why it's sold for that. For whatever reason, the AT-AT Commander on the 48 back usually is pretty easy to find, and $146.50 on that one is a pretty fair price. The 48 back Cloud Car Pilot yellowed blister. So I think that's what held the price back a little bit on this one. It did have some light creases by the hang tab as well as to the right of the card. A pretty heavy ding right there. But, you know, very nice condition. Again, 75 plus or maybe a low 80. But a yellowed blister, and that one did sell for $305 on 23 bids. Next up is the Revenge of the Jedi Imperial TIE Fighter palette. And this is probably the most confounding price, if you ask me. I've seen a number of examples sell both graded and ungraded for less than this, a lot less than this. $917 just seems like a big number, given that, I mean, it wasn't more than maybe a year and a half ago that I was able to pick one up and it graded an 80 with collector archive services, but I paid less than $300. I want to say it was around $280 or so what I paid for mine. This one had some weird scuffs on the inside of the blister there, like some kind of mold or something going on there. So I don't know why this one sold so high. It's not particularly hard to find. The card is in great shape. The blister is in good shape, although it does have the mold kind of going in front of the figure there. So your guess is as good as mine as to why that one sold so high, but that was a big number at $917. I got a couple of different Lukes that sold, Luke Farm Boys. This one is the yellow-haired Luke on the 47 back free 4-LOM offer, and it was a yellow blister as well. So not a clear blister on that one. $865 was the final winning price on that. And, you know, again, it is a Luke Farm Boy mint on card. It almost doesn't matter whether it's a yellow blister or not. If it's an Empire Strikes Back card with a Farm Boy, it's kind of tough to find. I mean, it's not super tough to find. It's not like it's like one in every 10 years or anything like that. You'll probably see, you know, a dozen or maybe even more than that pop up for sale or at auction on eBay fairly regularly. But that was a yellow blister, 47 back free 4-LOM offer. And it also did have kind of an overheating issue on the blister there. You can see where it's kind of bubbled up there. That happens a lot on Empire Strikes Back cards with those kind of weird blister defects. I talked about that in some recent videos. I think I talked about it when I got back my 48 back Cater Factory gray head Yoda on the the Empire Strikes Back card. It had some weird over wrapping on the blister, things like that. So it's not particularly surprising that you have this kind of weird overheating issue on the blister. But, you know, all those factors together, the yellow blister, the overheating on the blister, I'm just a little surprised it went that high at $865. This one is the very tough to find dark brown haired Luke Skywalker Farm Boy on the 45 back Star Wars display arena. And, you know, it did have some litho damage from where they tried to remove the price sticker. It was a punched example, but clear blister, and it sold for $1933. That is a big number. Probably a 75 for the card because of the litho damage, but you probably got an 80 or 85 for the blister, 80 or 85 for the figure. You might sneak out an 80 grade on that one, but 1933 is a big number. But in all fairness, it is the dark brown hair. You can see the very dark brown hair Luke. It might be yellow blister. I think I might have talked about that in my what to buy video. From this angle, it looks like it's yellow blister. So it might just be the lighting. I don't know, but it almost doesn't matter. I mean, it's a dark brown haired Luke. Very tough to find. They only appeared on some Empire Strikes Back card backs, as well as on the 48 back transition card Return of the Jedi free Neon Numb offer. So very tough figure to find mint on card at $1933. Here was the biggest surprise. I could not believe the sales price on this 47 back free 4-LOM offer, Boba Fett. Now, admittedly, the card and the blister are pretty fantastic condition, but the figure itself, you can see it's very clearly degrading. The arms have a very light color to the plastic versus the legs and the torso. So I think at best you're probably going to get about a 75 score for the figure. Maybe you eke out an 80. I don't know. But the card was pretty immaculate. The blister was pretty immaculate. But $55.95 was the final sales price on that. And that went about over double what I was expecting. I mean, I was half-heartedly thinking about bidding on it, and my number was $1,800 to maybe as high as $2,200, but that blew away every expectation. And I talked to a number of you that messaged me privately, and this number was way, way higher than I was expecting. $5,600 for a 47 back, and it's not particularly hard to find. Again, I mean, I've seen a number of mint on card Boba Fett's for the 47 back. So it's not particularly hard to find. Now, is it hard to find in this condition? Maybe. But I still think like $5,600, man, that is a big, big number. And I think it would be hard pressed to get that money back eventually. So that's just my personal opinion. But that seems to be a very, very high price on that Boba Fett. Certainly a beauty, though, and congratulations whoever won it. And if you decide to get it graded, I would love to know what the final grades are on that one. So anyway, more evidence that I think that prices have definitely rebounded nicely. Whether this is a temporary blip or whether this is kind of a sign of things to kind of start escalating from here is anybody's guess, and we'll have to just find out in future videos. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing, and I'll be back soon.